Well, hi everyone, it's Markus and welcome to more Zooming in the Jungle Room. Today I'm going all the way over to England where I'm speaking to Grace Petrie. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, middle of the night for me. So thanks for
Yay! And it's
having me. And your first thing in the morning, is that right?
exactly bright and early on a Wednesday morning in Adelaide.
Oh,
Yes. And the sun is shining. It is looking glorious. We are just slowly moving out of winter and into an incredible spring. Yes.
oh wow. Cool. I
And
love Adelaide. One of my
lucky
favorite
for
places.
you, because you're going to be coming over to Australia very soon. So you are coming over just at the right time.
Yeah, I kind of timed it that way. I
Perfection.
sort of managed to. I've got this great scam going where I can just avoid the winter because I
Ah,
always kind of spend the summer over here, and then when it's starting to get cold, I kind of hop over to Australia and soak up the sun. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Grace, that sounds absolutely perfection. When winter comes in Adelaide, I zoom all the way back over to Bali, Quick Smart, because I like
Wow, gorgeous.
one day
Mm.
we'll meet there. So yeah, Australia in September and October. And most excitedly for my benefit, it's in Adelaide also at the Trinity Sessions on September the 26th. So good things coming. Now, when's the last time you came to Australia?
Probably more recently than you would expect. I was over in May and I was also over in March. So I've actually had a pretty Australia heavy 2024. It just kind of fell that way. I was over to do the National Folk Festival in March, and then I was over again to tour with the Guilty Feminist podcast in May. So yeah, Australia kind of can't seem to keep me away.
You
I
just
keep
keep
on
on
coming back.
coming. You keep on
I
coming.
do,
Your
I do,
music,
yeah.
it's your
Well, I
music.
love the audiences there. I love the folks there, and you know, so far anyway, fingers crossed, they seem to be it seems to be a mutual thing. So yeah, I always have great responses in Australia, and I'll keep coming as long as I keep getting invited.
I think it sounds great. Now, I mean, because clearly you must have a lot of friends over here now as well. So there's just a lot of catching up for you to do. There's all the bars, the cafes, the restaurants, the wineries that you must get to these days. It's just
Yeah, for
home.
sure.
Now,
It is second home, yeah.
uh, obviously, as English folk singer, you've just brought out your 2024 album, which has been going gangbusters, obviously, which is called Build Something Better. How do you feel it's been received? Has it been picked up like you wanted it to be picked up?
Yeah, to be honest, I was amazed at the response. I mean, it actually did pretty well in the charts over here. There was a hot minute there where it was actually doing pretty well in the Australian charts as well, believe it or not, in release week. So, yeah, we got to in the top 30 of the overall chart, and we got to number one in the folk chart as well. So, really, absolutely, much bigger and better response than I ever could have imagined. I'm a DIY artist, so it's a kind of independent record. And I think, to kind of go up against the major labels and the big boys and kind of hold our own in the charts is a really, really amazingly kind of vindicating thing. Yeah, and then I got to tour it in the UK in the spring, and I've done a little bit of touring in Canada since it's come out as well. So this is going to be my first time kind of properly in Australia with this whole kind of fistful of new songs. So I really can't wait to share it with folks over there.
And so with the tour, is it just you or is there a band? How's the show looking?
So I in the UK I tour with a six-piece band, and that is not economical to bring to Australia. But I'm very fortunate that I have a wonderful friend who is a long-time collaborator on tour with me, my friend Ben Moss, who is I call him my one-man band because he's like a Swiss Army knife man on pretty much all instruments. So I'm going to be on guitar and vocals, and he's going to come on violin and mandolin and a bit of banjo and a bit of squeeze box as well. So he can kind of do it all. So there's going to be two of us on stage, but if you close your eyes, it'll sound like a band.
Great. And speaking of sounds, have you played at the Trinity sessions before in Adelaide?
Yeah, we actually played there last year, and it was amazing. I was to be honest, not really expecting anyone to be there because I hadn't, I've done some of the festivals over on the East Coast. They've done Port Fairy and Illawarra Folk Festival and things. So I've kind of got a bit of a crowd from the festivals over there.
Yep.
And Adelaide was a bit of a shot in the dark. And it was really great audience last time. And this time I think it's actually pretty much it's on course to sell out, I think, in the next couple of weeks. So
Well,
Adelaide, now it's where have you been all my life?
yay, yeah, well, we're here now for you. I mean, and like you probably remember, acoustically, that venue is just so brilliant. The sound in there is just gorgeous, being a beautiful old church. Amazing.
Absolutely gorgeous, yeah. I
Hey,
mean, I went to Catholic school, so I kind of spent a lot of time in churches when I was growing up.
yeah.
And I find I love, I mean, I'm not religious myself anymore, but I love kind of filling churches with contemporary folk music and particularly singing a lot about queer stuff. I feel like it's a gorgeous kind of reclamation of those spaces kind of thing. So I love kind of hearing a church just filled with like radical left-wing folk songs, you know.
Oh, heaven, heaven. Hey, let's go back to the early days. Growing up, who were you listening to?
Well, I started playing the guitar when I was 13, and I was kind of pretty into my English guitar bands at that time. I was a pretty big fan of Oasis and all
Oh,
that kind of scene, you know. But it wasn't really until I was kind of in my mid-teens that I really got into Alanis Morissette, and that was the first time that I really felt kind of, oh, this is somebody that really represents me, you know, and fell in love with her music, and she's kind of stayed my number one, I think, to be honest. Yeah, I saw her at the O2 in London the year before
oh.
last doing 25th anniversary of Jagged Little Pill, and I just sobbed my way through the whole night. Yeah, she's as amazing as she's ever been.
Stay back in the early days for a minute. Who was the first big live show that you ever saw?
So, weirdly, a friend of mine at school, his mum was working in the big concert hall in my hometown of Leicester, and she got us free tickets to see the Flaming Lips.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and I had shamefully never heard of them. And so that was my first ever gig, was like seeing the Flaming Lips from about 20 feet away,
Wow.
and just a place called De Montfort Hall in Leicester, which is a kind of, 3,000 capacity theatre. And I just remember like feeling the bass guitar like reverberating through my rib cage, you know, and going, "Oh, this is absolutely amazing." So that was my kind of. It sounds crazily sort of blessed that that was my first ever live gig, but it was, and I didn't pay a penny for it. So there you go.
Oh, perfect. Hey, have you ever played at that venue?
Do you know what? They did a festival in the outside grounds of the kind of gardens of that concert hall, and I did actually get to play there, which was a bit of a bucket list tick for me.
Hey, it must have been kind of surreal because as a child, I'm sure that it was a venue that you never even dreamed or that it would actually happen. It must
Yeah,
have been a great feeling, especially in your
absolutely.
hometown as well. You know,
Yeah,
be supported
yeah.
that way.
Yeah, and it's funny because my hometown, so Leicester is it's in the middle of England, but it's kind of in between Birmingham and Nottingham, which people in Australia might be familiar with.
Yep.
And as a result of that, it's kind of musically, it's kind of often been a bit overlooked,
Yep.
because when huge bands are touring, they'll often come to Nottingham or Birmingham, and they'll sometimes miss out Leicester. So I always felt quite sort of proud to be kind of, a musician from Leicester, because you don't come across that many, or it feels like you don't come across that many.
Um, let's go up to these days now. Who's inspiring your music now? So when the artists that you're listening to on Spotify, on vinyl, whatever, whose jam are you totally digging?
So there's actually a lot of Aussie artists that I really absolutely love. So the Maze out of Melbourne, I'm a huge fan of the Maze.
Yep.
And Darren Hanlon, who I think is up in Queensland, he's one of my favorite songwriters in the entire world. So yeah, when I kind of get to play Australian festivals, I'm just like this big fangirl in the middle of the green room looking around at all these people that I absolutely love. But I do think Australia's got a really gorgeous, rich, folk music tradition. And then over here, like I'm very close friends with Frank Turner, who produced this record, Build Something Better, and he was a dream to work with, and I just think he's a phenomenal songwriter. So it was a real dream to work with him. Actually, kind of feels funny to say that because he's such a pal that I feel like I'm being a bit kind of. It's weird to sort of talk about him in these terms, like, oh, like starry-eyed Frank Turner, because I just also kind of spent, you know, like a month sitting next to him in the studio, but he was really, really lovely to work with, and I think he's an amazing songwriter.
When you started this career off, you know, all those years ago, what really came first, do you think, for yourself? Was it the songwriting? Was it the, you know, the playing the guitar, or, you know, the singing?
I always wanted to play the guitar. I started when I was 13, and actually I really didn't have any confidence in my singing voice for a really long time. And I started songwriting as soon as I started playing the guitar, but I always kind of envisaged that I would have to kind of be the behind the scenes person in a band. I thought I'd have to find a front person to sing my songs because I didn't have any confidence in my voice at all. But I, you know, couldn't find a singer basically, so I kind of started singing my own songs when I was a teenager, and just kept at it, and got, I guess, I got better with time. I think that's what I always say. You know, sometimes like young people, teenagers will say to me, you know, what advice would you have for like trying to make a go of it? And I always say, you know, just gig and gig and gig and gig, because you learn something from every single gig. You get better with every single gig. And for me, you know, that was the journey from like genuinely believing, well, even though I really wanted to be a singer, believing I never ever will be a singer because I'm just not good enough, to getting to the point where I was really confident in my singing voice. But that took a really long time. It wasn't until I was probably, you know, like 20 years old or something. I've been doing it for kind of 7 or 8 years before, you know, people
Um,
said to me, "Oh, I really like your voice," and I was like, "Oh, maybe my voice is like getting there then," you know. So it's
well,
definitely
great.
the guitar thing first, I'd say.
Well, it's definitely worked out for you, hasn't it?
Hmm.
Everything's
Seems
just
to
come
be.
together.
Seems to be. I was still kind of pinching myself. You know, it's amazing that after all these years, this is what I get to do for a job. It feels like I'm cheating.
Oh, no, no, right. I know. But you know what? I mean, I think it's the secret to life. It surely must be. Hey, obviously you're known just for the most amazing lyrics, powerful lyrics, you know, moving lyrics, you know, lyrics with an incredible meaning. You know, how do you find a lot of your inspiration comes to you, you know, when you're sitting down writing your words?
So I guess I write a lot about politics, and the state of the world. I mean, I've had an awful lot to write about in the last sort of 10 years or so. You know, things haven't really slowed down either in Britain or internationally in terms of politics.
Mm.
And you know, growing up as a queer person, and you know, as a butch lesbian, those were things that were, um, I guess, difficult for me for a long time. I kind of had a lot of kind of discomfort in myself and a lot of kind of shame that was directed quite inwardly. So, you know, I always say that I kind of write songs as a bit of a method of therapy, basically. You know, if things are making me sad, if things are making me angry, if things are making me frustrated or feel despairing about the world, it will always come out in a song, you know, and I would say that it's primarily a way of making myself feel better, you know, and it's a gorgeous thing when anybody else in the world finds something from it, you know what I mean, and get something in it themselves. Because for me, it's kind of self-soothing. That's kind of how I'm aiming for it. And I think, you know, we do live in such divided and such scary times that often I do find myself feeling like, wow, I just have these kind of feelings that are just bursting out of me. So sometimes it's not even a sense of sitting down and deliberately writing a song. It's just kind of feeling like, well, I'm going to explode if I don't in some way exercise these feelings of whatever they are, you know. And then, you know, you go out and you share that with the world and you play it at a gig, and to have other people go, oh yeah, I feel the same way as that, or that makes me feel represented. That is just the most amazing catharsis that I think, you know, it's an amazing connection that music offers us, because I feel like a lot of people write songs that way, that they're writing them from their own perspective or for their own comfort or their own, self-soothing. And then to find other people singing along with you who feel the same way, I think can make you feel less alone, right? And then that's all I'm ever trying to do, really, is make people feel less alone.
Grace Petrie, your music, your art form, what you give out to the world absolutely changes people. It inspires people. It motivates people even. You know, what you do is just brilliant. So don't
Thank you very much.
thing, your pattern, your rhythm, your vibe, everything incredible. Um,
Thank you so much.
I'm so looking forward to seeing you and catching up with you when you come to Adelaide.
Well,
So,
likewise.
oh my gosh, hang on 1 second. So everybody, Grace Petrie is touring Australia in September and October, which includes Adelaide's Trinity sessions on September the 26th. So rush out and get your tickets. I'll put the link in the post. Grace, what an absolute delight chatting with you. And let's catch up in September.
Yeah, lovely to talk to you too, Marcus. Thank you so much for making time for me.
Thank you, Grace.
You look gorgeous as well. You look amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, darling. It's this beautiful sun in Adelaide. It'll catch up. You'll get some of this.
Yeah, you've got me at the end of a long day. You've got my bags under my
You're amazing. Thank you, darling. Have a wonderful
Take care.
day. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.